Hello friends and family, my name is Skylent, and today I'm going to give you my review of約束のNeverland, or The Promised Neverland in English. Now, if you're worried about spoilers, I'm only going to give you the introduction and video form here. I'm only going to give you like the first chapter or two. You can know what it's about, but I'm not going to give you fine details. I'm not going to give away the story, and I'm not really going to spoil it. All the spoils that I might talk about here, because I need to talk about the story, is going to all be included in the introduction of the manga. So if you want to go ahead and just have that experience, I'm actually going to suggest you do that, because there's actually a very interesting twist immediately in the story that I think you're going to have a lot of fun with. So once you do that, I'm assuming you did and you're jump back into the video, then we can go ahead and talk about The Promised Neverland and how it's really freaking different from average shonen. This is a shonen manga, but it's pretty different. I think it actually reads more in line with stuff like Made in Abyss, which happens to have childlike characters and maybe with like a childlike art style and aesthetic, but the world setting and the overarching story is pretty freaking dark. And maybe kids shouldn't be reading stuff as gorily drawn, more morbidly told as stuff like this. So is this really a shonen or not? I think we could debate it in the comments below its technical genre, but here we are. The Promised Neverland is apparently a shonen manga. It will be a long-running manga. And you should know actually that we are about 70 chapters in, but each chapter is a lot of content. It is a lot to read, and I can tell you right now, my experience, I mean, we are reviewing this with my experience, my opinion, but my experience was about 8 hours. I read it on my flight to LA going to the Overwatch eSport event, and yeah, 4-hour flight there and back. I finished it on the way back, and you know, I took my time with it. I actually reread a little bit of it too, because man, it's a really thought-provoking sort of art style. There's actually some hints and clues being thrown in there. There's some really interesting reactions to some of these events, experiences, these kids, these interactions with some of the characters. I really enjoyed it, almost like a puzzle. Like the whole manga itself almost feels kind of like a puzzle, and you're trying to solve it yourself as the reader, and of course as the children, the main characters in this book, are trying to solve their puzzle, and you're kind of really right there along for the ride, which I think is genius. I think it's fun. I think it's fantastic, despite its dark atmosphere, or maybe even because of its darkness. So I think if you're a fan of books like The Maze Runner, or maybe like Hunger Games, or these sort of survival-y games, or of groups of people or maybe individuals are trying to mostly, it's not just power through anything like general shonen, it's really more about puzzles, riddles, and really trying to solve these issues with your brains. And you as a reader, since that's what you're doing as well as part of them, you can more clearly identify with that, or even partake in that, and you might be able to, you know, catch up on some foreshadowing. I know people in Game of Thrones reading that love doing that, even in the shows. So if you really enjoy stuff like that, theory crafting or just theorizing and being a part of a ride with a very cerebral experience, that's absolutely what you're gonna get with this. And at the moment, as of reviewing it, you will get about, if you're eagle-eyed and you really take your time, which I think you should for this manga, you'll get about 8-7 hours of pure entertainment. And then of course, it's long form, so we got more coming. And I am excited to actually continue reading, but what I can tell you right now is you're gonna get about 8 hours of 2 thumbs up content. Absolutely worth reading, especially because it is so different from average shonen, but at the same time, you have that really quick readability, but then you're gonna get some very peculiar panels that really make your eyeballs stick to it. You're gonna be really analyzing some of these panels, these reactions, these things that you'll be seeing, and you're gonna have a good time. You're gonna have an experience, something to think about when you're staying awake at night, because it may upset your stomach just a little bit. But it's not too gory, it's not too ridiculous. But before I can really describe much more, I kind of gotta explain why it's dark and kind of sinister, but still at the same time a little bit positive. I gotta tell you the story a little bit. So yeah, the chapter 1 is going to be spoiled here. Please read that, but continuing on, we're gonna be talking about a little bit more specific of the story, so keep that in mind. Okay, hopefully you read the first chapter and you came back. So this next half of the review, going to dive a little bit deeper. So immediately, what is the plot to The Promised Neverland, and how does it make it so different? Well, immediately we have very little kids, and we have a group of little kids, though it does mainly focus on one girl named Emma, who is an 11-year-old turning 12. So very young cast here with lots of different characters, lots of different personalities, and it's fantastic. And they really shine because all these kids are actually geniuses. They're actually kind of brilliant. And that's what makes these puzzles and the solving of these riddles so fun, because they're just as smart as you wish you were, and there's a whole group of them. They all have their own little quirks and their own kind of strengths when it comes to mentality. But overall, no superpowers or anything like that. However, you are set in a very strange world. Okay, so if you read the first chapter, you learned that these kids are actually being farmed by demons. or they're called demons, but they're these monstrous creatures that are very intelligent apparently, and they have set up this whole system where kids are farmed or they're meat. So they eat humans like cattle. And that's what's happening here. However, this particular ranch is called Gracefield, and it's for the primest, most rarest, the best, the highest top shelf meat, which is going to be very smart brains, apparently. So 12 years old is apparently when the brain kind of gets like its full size, and these kids are actually taught. They do extensive tests, and they're very smart, and that's on purpose so that their brains are either as tasty or they give some sort of benefit to the demons. We don't actually know yet, but there is a reason why these kids are, like, I guess they just taste better. Who knows, but for some reason, these kids are raised in this sort of way, this free roam, you know, cage-free lifestyle, and taught these tests so that they can be harvested as the most prime meat. They're literally food. So that's sort of the premise there. And yes, we immediately have to begin plotting to escape, which is awesome. A little escape is always good. I love prison school for that myself, but normally in Shōnen, you don't have a situation where the main hero is the one that's captured and is the one that's breaking out. It's kind of, you know, save the princess sort of feeling. But no, this one is, they're all the princesses, but they're really, really smart. So we have to figure out how to escape, where to go from there, how to defeat certain enemies, and it's all cerebral, it's all thought, and I think kind of provoking emotionally as well, because these are little kids, and just the idea that they were raised for food and how some betrayals come about and how some friendships come about. I don't know, it's kind of touching to the heart, and also it kind of wrenches the gut just a little bit. So yeah, we're not going to go too much into detail of the story further than that, but basically, we gotta get out of here, we gotta escape this, and then from there we have to survive, maybe in this world, which we have no idea what it's like on the outside, and blah, 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 all sorts of really cool stuff that I want you guys to discover for yourself, and that's what this whole thing is. It's all about discovery. So if you read stuff like Attack on Titan, and you're just always like thinking, oh my gosh, you know, this revelation, I theory crafting on this and that, what it's like outside the walls, what it's like outside of this, and then what is that? You know, you're thinking about this, your brain is going in 10 different directions the whole time. Well, this whole manga seems designed on that concept. It is entirely focused on that. No superpowers to get into the way of this. It's really simple. The characters kind of have their very, you know, I guess kind of shonen like, they're very, you know, almost to an extent one note, but there's a lot of different characters, and they actually do have some complexity to them, that, you know, more so than what we'd see in general shonen like One Piece or Naruto or Dragon Ball Z. Because it is focused on their mentality, you do get to go a little bit deeper. And their power, I guess you could say, is that they're really freaking smart. Because it's kind of funny though, because they were raised like that so that they were the prime meat, that they were the prime food. But because they are smart, they can actually fight back maybe. They can actually escape. They might be able to survive. They might be able to not be food, which would be pretty cool if they actually all made it. But who knows, man? And this kind of story, you want to believe it's a little bit optimistic. And there is some optimism here and there. It's not quite as dreary as we might see with something like Berserk and Attack on Titan. There is a little bit more optimism, but I can't say that everyone will survive. I can't say that. So it's pretty cool what's going to happen, I think, in the future of this manga. But what has happened right now, what I can review currently, is that overall the puzzles were really good. I think some things might, like some plot points might have happened or fallen into their hands a little bit too easy, but I can't say that these guys are just Mary Sue brilliant. Like, they're not complete geniuses. It's not quite like, you know, Death Note, like how some things it's like, I don't know if you or the other character would have really have known that. I don't believe that. But since you do actually have this long cast of characters, they can all bring their own uniquity. So it's okay if somebody fails at one thing, like they kind of forget a detail or they don't see something or don't think of something, because somebody else can kind of come up with it. And I think in the end, that is very shonen. It's all about friendship and teamwork, kind of, in a way. And yeah, that's cool, but I think more than a lot of others, we do get a little bit of betrayal, which is also pretty cool too. So yeah, no spoilers, or trust me guys, you'll never guess, probably never guess, but it is pretty cool to think about, is that guy doing that thing? And is this person doing that thing? Are they actually on our side? Or, you know, it's really cool to see these things, and hints are dropped here and there, but for the most part, I gotta say, yeah, the plot follows a pretty believable line. And overall, I gotta say, there's really only a few things that might be stretching, but maybe it's a little bit more explained later on, possibly. And that's actually kind of how it seems. Like, I thought something in the very beginning, it's like, there's no way, what are the chances of that happening? And then it turns out you learn later that it's like, oh, maybe that's how that happened. That once-in-a-lifetime event actually maybe isn't so once-in-a-lifetime. You know, stuff like that. I think it does get explained away, but you gotta be a little bit more patient because, again, it's a shonen. But at the same time, it's also following in the footsteps, I think, of stuff like Attack on Titan, which is really more about very slowly revealing the world setting. So if you're okay with sort of a slow burn, but something that constantly churns out very revolutionary content, I would argue, then you're gonna have a good time. But in closing, I do want to talk about the art, because this is a manga. You are going to be, your eyeballs are resting on it. So is it comfortable? Yeah, it is. It's drawn like a shonen a lot of the times, but particularly certain panels will have a tremendous amount of detail. And these panels are supposed to be analyzed, looked at. It is really supposed to invoke emotion and also maybe give you some hints and teases at the future. So that's something that's really interesting. And that's something you see in Seinen, where the panels will be a little bit more detailed to evoke, a little bit more of a gruesome feel or something like that. I know you can read like Knights of Sidonia, Blam, or something like that, and the panels are super detailed, but normally they're very scattered. Well, this, I think you have kind of the best of both worlds. You have a very fluid and sometimes you could argue flat art style, but the characters are still uniquely drawn. You can still get across where you are in the world, even though it might be simpler, but then you also do get those big, super detailed panels that just look really fantastic, and then also at the same time help to explore the world within them, within a single panel. So you do get a little bit of a mix of art style, some might say quality, but I think overall readability is absolutely fantastic, and it has an amazing pacing. And on my plane trips, I didn't even realize how quickly the time passed. But yeah, 8 hours was the readability of 69 chapters. I had a great time, 2 thumbs up, absolutely. But now, do I put this as a must-read for most people? I would have to say that The Promised Neverland is something that everyone should read. I think it's something that a lot of people would really enjoy, even if you normally don't like shonen, or maybe you don't like seinen. It's somewhere in between, and I think it explores some stuff that a lot of people haven't explored. So yeah, go ahead and jump in to The Promised Neverland. That's the end of my review so far. I might do another review later on, maybe next year, but I just want to say thanks for watching, guys. It was a lot of fun reading this, and it's a lot of fun making this video and kind of explaining my thoughts, and I hope overall you enjoyed the video and what I had to say, and I'd love to know what you guys got to say in the comments below as well. And if you want to see more manga reviews, I'm absolutely going to do that. We're expanding from just games or even gamey-like things like The Promised Neverland, and we're going to be doing more anime reviews, anime top 10s, manga top 10s, and stuff like that. Anything geeky, nerdy news and media, absolutely, that's what we're going to do. So if you want to support that and deep diving into not just niche type of video games like MMOs like I used to, but expanding that and going even further into all these other medias, and generally nerdy media, maybe even amusement parks, then we're going to do that. We'll have real conversations, real reviews as real people, one to another, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for supporting that with the Patreon, with the donations, and joining us in the Discord, links in the description as well. Just liking, subscribing, and hanging out here in the video. That's all I can ask for is friends and family like you. Thanks so much, guys. Keep that hype alive, and I'll see you again next time.